Hi, welcome to Girl Hey, and this first episode of Hey, Girl Hey. So usually in this sort of video I would plan to be playing a video game while talking to you, but I decided today that I would just instead talk to you, and you could use this as maybe some background noise while you're doing something else if you're interested in listening to me talk about my history as a video gamer. What did I grow up playing? What have I played recently? What do I play now? So you can get a better idea of what to maybe expect on this channel, what kind of games I'll be salivating over, and what games I might even dedicate, a whole episode of something to talk about. So I do anticipate this to probably be about an hour. We'll see if it's shorter or longer. I'm sure it won't necessarily be the most entertaining footage of all time, but I think this could be a great way for you, the audience, to get to know me, and then maybe in the future start discussions with me about certain games, which I am always happy to do. I wrote a list because I think if I don't have a good list written down, I'm not going to remember most of the things, and that in my talking I'll just talk so quickly that I completely lose track of what I've already said. So hopefully this list will help me a little bit. If you didn't see my first video where I play Limbo, which I don't blame you, it's not the best video ever, then just a little introduction to me. My name is Holland, and I am the sole feature of this channel, Hey Girl Hey, or Girl Hey, which is a name that actually comes from how my brother interacts with me. One of my brothers, anyway. I'm 23 years old, and I am, surprise, an American, but I actually live and work in Germany, which is something that I also maybe will talk about in the future, especially if people are interested in that, because, as my brother said, it's the interesting thing about you, which was really nice. So I guess there's only one interesting thing about me, and that's that I live in Germany. But yeah, as I mentioned in my first video, I initially had wanted to do streaming, but my internet connection here in my apartment is really, really bad because I live in a really old part of the city. But it's supposed to be updated sometime in the next year, so here's to hoping that sometime earlier than July 2016, I will have a faster internet connection and can start streaming, because I think streaming would be a lot of fun to have live interactions with people. But yeah, so why don't we just get right down into it? Just start with the very beginning and work our way to the present. I won't necessarily always go in order, sometimes because I'm not exactly sure which system or which game or whatever came out first, which I don't think should really matter. And also sometimes I'll be talking about series, and so I often tend to then talk about that series as a whole rather than splitting it between the systems I've played it on. So I started gaming when I was in elementary school back in the 90s. The first system that we owned, that we as kids, it was bought for us, was the N64, which came out in 1996, I think. I was 4 then, so I doubt that I was playing video games at 4, but I'm pretty sure, I at earliest maybe started around 5 playing video games, and at latest around 8. I'm fairly certain I was playing I'm 100% certain I was playing video games before 8 years old. I really love the N64. Like many people, I'm very nostalgic for that system. We still own it back home in the US, so I can still play it sometimes, and I do if it's set up, because, a lot of those games are just really classic, and they hold up relatively or pretty well. I played a lot of the Mario games, so Mario Kart, Super Mario 64, Mario 64. I should know the title of that better. And I owned, or the first game that was bought specifically for me, that was my game, was Mario Party, the original Mario Party, which is a game that I still love, and I played so much of as a child. And if I owned a Wii U, I would totally buy Mario Party 8, which I believe is the newest iteration. But I don't own a Wii U, and I don't plan to buy a Wii U, despite it probably being a pretty good system. But yeah, I played a lot of those games as a child. even sometimes just by myself playing against AI, or often because my siblings didn't seem to be as into Mario Party as I was, which is a shame, but, you know, whatever. They just have bad taste. I also played some of the Zelda games on the N64. I played a lot of Majora's Mask. I think I was kind of a bit young at the time, so it was a bit hard for me, and I never actually finished the game, but I did play that first part over and over again, where you get into the town, and you can go to the inn, and then if you talk to the receptionist lady at a particular time, you get a key where you can go into this different room that's upstairs and down the hall, and I don't know why, but as a kid, I thought that was, like, a lot of fun, so I did that a lot. I've also, you know, watched the entirety of the Ocarina of Time and of Majora's Mask be played to completion. So even though I never completed those myself as a child, or, you know, now, I do know how they end, and I think, you know, they're fantastic games. I think Majora's Mask I watched also when I was a little kid, and it kind of freaked me out. I thought it was a really creepy kind of game, especially, like, with Majora and stuff, but no, I really like the Zelda games, and I wish, you know, in hindsight, that I would have completed them when I was a kid, because I think going back now might be a bit difficult for me to get into, but I know, you know, I'm very, you know, grateful that I got to play them, and I really enjoyed those games, even if I was shit at them and never finished them myself. In a similar vein, I'm actually not sure if I finished this game, because I've seen it be played by my brothers and friends so many times to completion that I'm not sure if I just project myself onto one of those completions, or if I actually did it myself one time at least, and that's Star Fox 64. I think, like most people who played that game, I absolutely adored it as a child. Ooh, you can probably see my kind of messy apartment behind me. But yeah, I loved Star Fox. I know I definitely got at least as far as the asteroid belt, but I've seen that game played completely through a bunch of times, so I think I finished it. And I feel like I'm one of the rare people that likes Skippy. I don't know, maybe because I've always been the little one, and I've always been the youngest, so I kind of had sympathy or empathy for that character. You know, I'm used to being the one that's maybe not the best at doing whatever, the games or whatever. I had two older brothers that I was always trying to live up to, so, yeah, but obviously now, you know, I don't worry about that in gaming anymore, but as a kid, I did, and I feel like I kind of identified with the Skippy character. But yeah, you know, sorry, not sorry, I identified with a little annoying frog. Yeah, and then I guess I know I played a lot on the N64. I feel like there was a Demolition Derby game that was on the N64, though it might have been the PS2, but I'm almost certain it was the N64 that we played a lot. Also, Super Smash Brothers, which is actually one of the games that we still play a lot when we set up the N64, because, I mean, who doesn't love Super Smash Brothers? I think my favorite character to play on Super Smash Brothers was Jigglypuff, because in Pokemon I liked Jigglypuff, and I think I also liked playing Link as well. But yeah, I think, you know, that's one of those games that a lot of people grew up with and really liked. Excuse me while I drink some water. Yeah, but the last game, but certainly not least, probably maybe the game other than Mario Party that got my most play hours because of how long we played it, like we played it up until I was well into middle school, was GoldenEye. And I know it's one of those games that doesn't really hold up if you go back and play it, but at the time, it was the most fantastic game, and it gave me and my friends and my brothers so many hours of entertainment that, you know, I frankly don't care that it doesn't hold up, because for what it was at the time, it was a fantastic game, and I played the shit out of that multiplayer, and, you know, I wish I could turn back time and experience it again, because that was great, and I know if I went back and played it now, it wouldn't be the same, and so I don't, because I don't want to ruin it. But yeah, I think like most people, I really loved GoldenEye. I thought it was one of the best games ever. And I maybe would still say, to me, it's one of my favorite games ever, if for only nostalgia's sake, not for necessarily having the highest quality or being the best at holding up to the test of time. Yeah, so next what I'll talk about is another Nintendo system that's not really, it's not a console, it's a handheld, and that's the Game Boy Color. My friend that I grew up with had a Game Boy, but I didn't have a handheld until the Game Boy Color. And I had the nice, solid pink Game Boy Color, of course, because I was the girl. And my brother, he had the really cool, like, purpley but, like, see-through one. But obviously my pink one's better. It's just a fact of life. So that is really where I played the Zelda games more than on the consoles. I played Link's Awakening and the Oracles of Ages and Seasons. And I love those games. Those are, you know, the Game Boy Color and those games that I played on it are games that I go back and I still play when I'm at home in the US. Maybe one day I'll actually, like, when I go home at Christmas time, when I fly back to Germany, I'll bring my Game Boy Color back with me, maybe, because, I mean, it's a lot of fun. Or, you know, I'm thinking about maybe getting a 3DS to play newer games, because I think sometimes when I run out of console games to play, or I kind of get tired of playing on the console, which is rare, but it happens, you know, it'd be nice to maybe have some handhelds to play. But yeah, I played a lot of those games, of the Zelda games, on the Game Boy Color. I also played some Mario games on the Game Boy Color. Not very exciting, but I did it. Yeah, and I also played a game called Marble Madness, which was like you were controlling a marble and having to navigate like these environments and not falling through holes and shit like that. And that was a lot of fun. I played a lot of that. It was a very red and blue colored game, but I liked it a lot. And I would say the game that I poured the most time into on the Game Boy Color was Pokemon Yellow. It is the only Pokemon game to date that I finished, that I've completed. I've only dabbled in some of the anything that's newer than Pokemon Yellow. You know, maybe that would be something I would get back into if I got a DS or a 3DS. But yeah, I played and beaten Pokemon Yellow multiple times. I really loved that game, and yeah, I don't even know what else to say about it. It was a huge part of my childhood, as was Pokemon in general. You know, my brothers and I, since I have two older brothers, you know, we collected the cards and played the card game against each other. I watched the TV series. I read, like, the books. I remember one year at our book fair in elementary school, there was the Rocket Team Rocket, sorry, excuse me, I was thinking Rocket League, but Team Rocket had like a book, and it was like sold out at the book fair, and I had to order it on like back order, which was devastating. But one of the best days of my life as a child was when that came in. I was probably maybe 6 or 7, I'm not sure. But yeah, I loved Pokemon. And as a kid, you know, it was the best. And always, of course, my brothers, when we went and bought the packets at the store, they would end up getting the great holographics, and I would just get all of those basic cards over and over again. And, I mean, I know they couldn't rig it, but, you know, as a kid, I was certain that they had done something, that they had, you know, stolen my holographics or something. But there was almost no better feeling than getting that new packet of Pokemon cards and opening it and, like, slowly, like, leafing through them just to see if you got a holographic or not. And I kind of miss those days. Those were simpler times back in the days of Blockbuster and stuff like that. Yeah. So I guess the next system that's worth mentioning that I played quite a bit on was the Sega Dreamcast, which I know at the time was quite a failure, but now in hindsight, a lot of people I think look back on and are very fond of. I was very fond of it at the time as well. Obviously, I played Sonic, you know, that classic Sega game, but it wasn't really my favorite necessarily. I played, I think, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 was on the Sega Dreamcast. In fact, I almost can guarantee that it was. And I played a lot of that. It made me almost want to skateboard, but not, because I'm really afraid of hurting myself. But I really loved that game. And there was that one map, I'm sure this is on every map, but there was one map I can remember that was like a skate park outside. And if you got onto the power lines above, you could ride around in like an oval for like infinity, as long as you didn't fall off. And you could gain like so many points well after the time had run out. And I did that a lot. Yeah, and Another game that I played, there was a boxing game that I can't remember the name of, but I do remember that one of the characters' name was Afro Thunder, which I thought was really funny. And so if anybody out there can remember the name of that game, that would be fantastic. Because my brothers and I played a lot of that game. The Sega actually eventually ended up being in my bedroom, which was cool. So I played a lot of that game in particular. Just because I think that was probably the most fun game for me on the Sega Dreamcast. This is a game that I'm not sure if it was on the Dreamcast or the PS2, but either way, I played it, so I'll mention it. And there was like an NBA Street game where you would be playing basically street basketball. I'm not sure if it was called NBA Street, but whatever it was, I think it was the first one of those in the series, if it even ended up being a series. I always liked to play as this girl, like one of the main players I played as was somebody I created. And it was a girl who was really tall, as I am not, had a brown ponytail, wore like a white tank top and long like Adidas, pink Adidas with white striped like trainer pants. I thought she looked really cool at the time, and I really I played a lot of that game. And I don't even like basketball, but yeah, that game was a lot of fun. And I don't think I've really played any basketball games since, other than maybe one or two like multiplayer matches with my brothers and friends if we were playing video games when we were hanging out. Yeah. I am almost certain I played a lot more games on the Dreamcast, but sadly I can't remember any, and those are the only ones that really stick out to me. But yeah, I enjoyed the Dreamcast, and we still own it, and we can still hook it up when I'm at home. So, and I know recently, relatively recently, in the last year, we played something on it. So, yeah. I already mentioned the system before, and obviously I think many people would agree this is potentially the best system of all time, the PS2. The longevity of that system is just amazing, and the amount of hours I poured into it is uncountable. You know, it's that system that I think is where I started to transition just from, like, you know, being this little kid who I have two older brothers, and so I play video games because they play video games, but to actually, like, playing them because I like them, and it helped me to discover, you know, what type of games I really like to play, and what, you know, I play all different types of games, but what's my favorite genre? So the PS2 is where I first played GTA, and it's actually the only system on which, I don't know if I ever finished, I think I finished Vice City, but it's the only system on which I finished a GTA. I'm actually not a huge sandbox gamer, which is why I haven't played much more GTA, but I really, really like GTA 3 and Vice City. I mean, obviously Vice City, I just think, has a fantastic soundtrack, and it really introduced me to a lot of 80s songs that I maybe wouldn't know if I'd never played that game, which was cool. And it was really cool getting to explore Miami. I definitely played, while I played a lot of GTA hours-wise, I think I played more of the story of Vice City because I really wanted to unlock the different parts. Yeah, but I played so much GTA on the PS2 that it's almost shocking that I haven't really played it since, considering how much I liked it then. But I think the thing was, I also played a little bit of San Andreas, and it didn't appeal to me as much anymore. For some reason, I wasn't a huge fan of San Andreas, and I think that just kind of took the wind out of the GTA sails for me. Which is whatever, you know. I'd considered getting GTA 5 for the PS4, but I haven't. You know, maybe the next GTA game that comes out I'll get into, because I think for the online elements it would be really great. Another game that I played was Tiger Woods Golf. I forget what year it was. I played a lot of that game until one day one of my brothers accidentally deleted it off the memory card. I refuse to believe it was an accident, but, you know, whatever, I can't prove it. My character was really cool. She was a girl, and she had, like, dyed red hair with two big buns on her head, and I think she may have had braces if that was an option, because, you know, when I was a little kid, I knew what cool was, and that's what it was, and it's what it is, I'm fairly certain. But yeah, and once my save was deleted, I never played it again because I'd gotten so far in that game that having to start from square one was just like something I was not having. So, and another sports game I played was, I think, Quarterback Club, a game that had the quarterback challenge. That's the only thing I played on that game, and I almost always played as Charlie Batch of, I believe, the Detroit Lions at the time. I didn't even know who he was until I played that game, and I'm not a Detroit Lions fan, but I really, really enjoyed Quarterback Club and Quarterback Challenge, and I played that a lot as a kid. And the most important sports game of the PS2 is obviously Harry Potter Quidditch, which is something that they should definitely make for the newer systems as well. I am a relatively large Harry Potter fan, especially when it comes to the books. I actually haven't seen all of the movies because, to be honest, I'm not particularly into the movies, but I really, really love the books. So Harry Potter Quidditch was just a great way to kind of feel like, oh my gosh, this world is sort of real. Like, I can play this, like, not quite like I can play Madden, but, you know, like, I can play this game and it's a lot of fun and it's great. And yeah, so I really like playing HP Quidditch. Obviously played as Ravenclaw because, like, it's the best house. And then I also played the international games. I played mostly as Germany or the US, which should not be that much of a surprise. But yeah, I played a lot of HP Quidditch. And I guess the last game that I'm certain I played on the PS2 that is worth mentioning is Indigo Prophecy, because I would say that that's the game that helped introduce me to what kind of games I like now. And by that I mean, you know, story-driven games where your decisions matter. It's one of the first games, or probably the first game, that made me ridiculously stressed because so many parts of it were like time-based, where it's like, if you don't press this button fast enough, you're gonna die. And excuse me. And like, as the character, spoiler alert, starts to lose his mind, it like freaked me out. I was a pretty little kid at the time. I think I was only like, I was probably in middle school when I played that game. So yeah, but I really, really enjoyed that game, and it kind of helped me to discover that I really like those kinds of games where you develop yourself, and that your decisions matter. And even if I can't create my own character, that doesn't really matter to me as long as I feel like what I do matters in the game. And, you know, I feel like Indigo Prophecy is a great way to transition into the PS3 era and what I played, because the first game I ever played on the PS3 was Heavy Rain, which was made by the same developer. And, you know, it's like basically a prettier version of Indigo Prophecy that takes place in a Philadelphia-like city, which is kind of cool, but also like, oh, look, it's a game that's not very happy taking place in Philadelphia, but that shouldn't be a surprise, I guess. Heavy Rain is fantastic. Again, I was a bit older, so it wasn't quite as like nerve-wracking for me. But that being said, you know, when you were having some of those fight sequences and stuff, and like things are time-based, and people's lives are on the line based on your decisions and how quickly you can do things, and how like astute you are at seeing little clues, which is sometimes a bitch and really hard, especially when you're in Norman's like that like digital world that he can interact with. Yeah, but it's a fantastic game, and you know, just talking about it really makes me want to go back and play it. And now that you can download PS3 games on PS4s, maybe I'll buy it and play it again, because it's a lot of fun. And the only other game that I think I can recall playing on the PS3 is L.A. Noire. And for saying that I don't really like sandbox style games, or, you know, I'm not actually the hugest Rockstar fan, I really liked L.A. Noire because it was quite different, I think, you know, from the GTAs, because you can screw up things. You know, you're interrogating people and you say the wrong thing, and all of a sudden your mission you don't get the full stars on your mission, or maybe you even fail. And I really loved, you know, the graphics, the face capture that they did with the actors was fantastic, especially as a Mad Men fan, because I knew who Aaron Stanton is, and I know who Vincent Kartheiser is. So it was really cool to see them in that game, and yeah, to get to, I guess, play as Aaron Stanton. Yeah, so L.A. Noire, and also I am obsessed with like that 50s aesthetic, because it took place in the 40s and 50s, that game. Because I love the way the people dress. I love the music of that era and the cars and just everything, and seeing this like young up and coming LA is really cool. LA before it got gross, probably. And like, you know, my favorite music comes from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and that's what that game has, and it's really fantastic, and it's a really beautiful game. you can, and like playing it for nothing else than how it looks is kind of worth it. But then obviously the bigger system of that time that I played, and I think many people played more of, was the Xbox 360. That is just a ridiculously important system in my history as a gamer. I poured hundreds of hours into that system. The first game I recall ever seeing on the Xbox 360 was Oblivion. I think really soon after, one of our family friends got his Xbox 360. He brought it over to our house, and he brought Oblivion with him, and I remember watching my brothers and him playing it and thinking like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. Now I'm actually not the hugest Bethesda fan, but at the time I really, really thought Oblivion was like the pinnacle of what gaming could ever be. I did play Oblivion, but I never beat it. I think it felt a bit monotonous at times, especially with like Oblivion gates and stuff. So, but I did play it. I did, however, on the other hand, play and beat Skyrim. I do like Skyrim better than Oblivion, but it's not one of those games that I think I'd ever go back and play, or that I'd go back into the world now that I finished it and continue. But I'm glad I played it. I don't like how Bethesda animates faces, which is probably stupid and is something I should be able to get over, which I can when I'm playing, but just sort of like in general, I appreciate, a realistic looking face if the face is supposed to be like human or a creature or whatever. But I do think Bethesda makes very beautiful environments. Like the environments in Skyrim are gorgeous. And as somebody who loves Norse history and culture, Skyrim is perfect for that, and it's just overflowing with that stuff. So, Skyrim's a really great game. I'm not going to say it's one of my favorite games, but it's a game I enjoyed, and I'm really glad I played it. Now into some less exciting games, I guess maybe for some of you. I played NCAA Football 2011, I recall, is the main one that I played. And I do like American football. I prefer college football to professional football. I'm a Gamecock, so obviously the Gamecocks are the best team of all time ever. I don't care what you say. And Steve Spurrier is the best coach ever, but that's beside the point. Because actually when I played that game, it was well before I even considered the University of South Carolina. Because 2011 would have come out in 2010 when I was... No, it wasn't 2011. That's impossible. JK, I think it was like 06 or 05 or something like that. I was definitely not 18 when that game came out. No, I think it was, or it could have been 09. Anyway, it was definitely in the O's. And I really liked that game. I played a guy, and he got recruited by the University of Tennessee, which now that I have been in the SEC, I obviously realized was a mistake. But, at the time, I really enjoyed it, and I got the Vols to become a very good team, which is obviously unrealistic. And, apologies to any Vols fans out there. Do you say Vols? Like, they're the Volunteers. Do you say Vols? In my mind, I always said Vols when I was playing the game, just because that's how it looked to me. But Vols are animals, and they're the Volunteers. Regardless, I apologize to any Tennessee fans, but also I don't, because I made your team really good in a fictitious world, so you're welcome. I also played the Topspin games 2, 3, and 4. I am a huge tennis fan. I used to play tennis a lot, and I used to be actually pretty good at tennis. I haven't played in a long time, but I adore tennis, and Topspin was just a great way to kind of immerse myself in that world and pretend as if I were good enough to be a professional player. And if there were a Topspin 5, I would totally buy it and play it, but there's not that I know of. But yeah, I played a lot of Topspin, and as both a male and female, and, rose through the ranks and became a legend in the sport. Not to brag or anything, but yeah. I also played Red Dead Redemption, I have written down. You're probably like, Holland, you don't really like Sandbox, and you don't really like Rockstar. But I guess Red Dead, I appreciated the different aesthetic and the different story that you get when you go to the Wild West, which I've always been fascinated by. maybe in the same vein as GTA, I played quite a bit of it, but I never necessarily finished it. I did enjoy Red Dead, and I'd probably play another one if it came out. But, you know, again, sandbox is not my favorite style, but I do appreciate the mix in the aesthetic there, and so that's probably why I really enjoyed it. I also played I played a little bit of Halo. I haven't played Halo since Halo 3. I do want to get back into Halo because I feel like it's one of those games that I would enjoy, because contrary to what feel like many people think, I do enjoy FPSs. I do get that same satisfaction when you make a really great shot and, you know, all of that stuff, or you have a really good game. And I would love to get into the online multiplayer of Halo. So we'll see. Hopefully I will do that with the next iteration of the game coming out this fall, I think. Another game that I played was Call of Duty. The last Call of Duty that I played to completion was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Since then, I've only played bits and pieces of a few of the other ones, of like Blops and Blops 2. I never played Ghosts. I've never played Advanced Warfare. But yeah, I enjoyed Call of Duty. I never did the online multiplayer, but I enjoyed the games, the campaigns and stuff like that. But I know it's one of those series that while it still sells a shit ton, it is sort of slowly declining over time, and I probably won't buy Call of Duty games in the future. But, you know, I did enjoy them when I did play them. Another Bethesda game that I played that I actually really liked was Fallout 3. I think now I couldn't go back and play it. I think, you know, now the graphics and just the whole interface of it wouldn't necessarily be my cup of tea. But I know when I played it, I really enjoyed it. And I mean, who doesn't love VATS? Like, that's such a fantastic system. And so satisfying when it hits and it, like, everything explodes and stuff. So yeah, and I as somebody who really likes the city of Washington DC, it was cool to play in the outskirts and then to be able to go into the destroyed Washington DC. Obviously I'm a huge fan of Three Dog, like who isn't? Like, obviously the best radio presenter ever. You know, aesthetically now, yeah, I kind of see it's very sort of brown game in terms of color, but the new Fallout looks really colorful and cool and has, you know, I've always loved the aesthetic of Fallout in the sense of like the world before the Fallout was very like a modern 50s, like if the aesthetic from the 50s carried over into the modern day with different technology and shit, and the music is that kind of music that I really love. So I really actually, I do like the Fallout games a lot, and I'm happy to see that the newest Fallout, the character generation, like how they looks a lot better than previous Fallout games. Obviously it's not graphically the most impressive game possible, but I am excited and I will probably most definitely play it. Probably won't get it day of, but maybe sometime within the few weeks after it coming out, I will probably get it and play it, especially once like I hear about people playing it and how good it is or something. Yeah, so this is the first game that will be part of like a series of games that I will talk about. So I've played Assassin's Creed. I've played Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3, and 4. Are 4 and Black Flag the same thing? I don't think they are, but if they are, then if they aren't, then I've also played Black Flag. And I've played and I own Assassin's Creed Unity. I think my favorite of the series was probably Black Flag, just because I loved the mix-up in the mechanics of the game, and the location of the Caribbean it was rendered beautifully, and it's a really beautiful game, and I think, you know, your pirate friends are really cool, and the songs that the crew sings are really fun, and it makes sailing around worth it, even if I was not the best at the boat warfare, but that's okay. You know, it was still a really fun game. And even though I know a lot of people shit on Assassin's Creed 3 with Connor being boring, as an American, I still think it was really cool to be in that environment. You know, the environments were rendered beautifully, as Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft games always are. They're always beautiful. And regardless of their faults, you know, I'm never going to complain about the environments because you know, I think in Assassin's Creed 3, it was just gorgeous. And yeah, okay, maybe Connor wasn't the coolest, but still, it was really cool to be around revolutionary America, especially go to like Boston and stuff. Like, that was really cool seeing colonial Boston. And then, Assassin's Creed Unity also hasn't gotten a lot of love, and I understand why. It's not a perfect game, and I haven't finished it. But I did enjoy it, and I do think, it's huge. Paris is huge that they created, and it's really beautiful. I'm not the biggest French fan, but, I still really enjoyed it, and it was really cool those times when you go through, like, the terrors or whatever they're called, and, like, you get to go to then, like, turn of the century Paris, like, is it the fin de siècle? I can't pronounce French, so I apologize for having butchered that, but, like, going to that France was really cool, because it changes a lot from the Paris that you're in during most of the game. But sadly, your time in there is limited because you're trying to collect stuff and whatnot, so you don't have a lot of time to look around. But even so, it was really cool. I remember when I first got to go do that, I sent my brother a message like, oh my god, it's so beautiful and so cool. But yeah, so, in general, I like Assassin's Creed. It's not my favorite series. I don't necessarily always have the patience to be particularly stealthy, which in that game is kind of the point. But I appreciate how beautiful they are. And, in general, they can be fun if quite monotonous at times. Especially, like the first game, I think that was the major complaint, was how monotonous it was. Yeah. And so, before I talk about my 2 favorite series ever, I will talk about what I've played on the new systems. The only game I've played on the Xbox One is a bit of FIFA. I really love soccer, and I would love to be better at FIFA, so maybe I'll buy the next version of 2016. But I haven't really played FIFA since then, and I don't own an Xbox One over here in Germany, which is why I haven't played anything else. Maybe one day I'll consider getting an Xbox One, but for right now, I'm just going to stick to my PS4, because there aren't that many exclusives, and even if they are, they're usually timed exclusives, so it's just like I just have to wait, which is no big deal. But on my PS4, I've played a lot of, I played the entirety of The Witcher 3. I never played The Witcher 1 or 2, and my brother told me that if I haven't, it's not worth going back to them once I've played The Witcher 3, because, the graphics and stuff are such a downgrade from The Witcher 3 that it'll probably not appeal to me, which is fine. I do wish I had played them, just because I feel like I would have connected more then to these characters that you run into that obviously were involved in the first 2 games, but I didn't know who they were. But yeah, I thought The Witcher 3 was fantastic. My brother wasn't sure if I would like it, because it is a more difficult game. But then I just put it on the easy setting, and while there still were things that were difficult, especially when I was out-leveled quite a bit, in general, I really, really, really enjoyed The Witcher. I spent a lot of time in that game. I think Geralt's really funny and a little sassy sometimes, and it's beautiful. The cities, Novigrad and Oxenfurt, are gorgeous. I think Oxenfurt obviously is prettier, and that's where I would like to live if I could live in that world. And obviously, as somebody who, as I mentioned, likes Norse things, I thought Skellige is really cool, because that's obviously supposed to be like a Scandinavian type society. And it was really cool having Charles Dance be the emperor. I mean, his voice is so fantastic. So yeah, that's a game that I would really love to go back and play again. Maybe not now, but in a few months' time, once I played it. I finished it a while ago, but in a little while, maybe one day go back and play that again and make some different choices, because some of the choices I'm not happy with in the end. Though I think I got a really good ending, because obviously Team Triss. I know that apparently in the book series he ends up with Yennefer because she's supposed to be like the one love of his life, but let's be real, Triss is just so much better in the games. Yeah, and speaking of The Witcher, they have Gwent, which is that card game, and once I got into it, once I understood how it worked and started, winning games and getting more special cards, it was so much fun. And that's one of those games that I would love to either see in an online multiplayer, to be able to play against my PlayStation friends, and play them in Gwent with cards that I've collected, or an actual physical Gwent set that you can buy, almost like a la Pokemon cards, and be able to play in person with people, though I obviously would not have to want to lose special cards if I lost. Because I really like tabletop gaming. I like board games and card games, like those card strategy games and stuff like that. So I would really love to have more of those to play. Yeah, so another game that I played a bit of on the PS4 is Shadow of Mordor. I love Lord of the Rings, which is a bit of an understatement. I adore Lord of the Rings. I've read the book. I've seen the movies, only the extended editions, of course, a million times. You know, I watch them a few times a year, probably. Especially like if it's a weekend, I'll just get my Ben and Jerry's and watch some Lord of the Rings. The game is supposed to be really fantastic. I know the Nemesis system's really cool. I played a little bit of it, and I got a little bit into the Nemesis system. I think my problem with it at the time is that it had a lot of the same mechanics, or similar mechanics, to Assassin's Creed Unity, which I just stopped playing when I got that game. But that the button mapping was a lot different, and I didn't transition well between the two games, and I didn't play long enough to like get used to the maps and how everything worked. And then by the time, you know, I had played it a little bit, another game that I really wanted to play had come out, and so I just stopped playing it. I do obviously still have it, and I do plan to go back and hopefully actually play it, because I love the Lord of the Rings, and I think it'd be great to see like this other part of the story, you know, that it's like new to the world, you know, before the books ever take place. And yeah, so hopefully one day I'll be able to go back and play that, because a lot of people said it was like the game of the year, so there should be no reason why I wouldn't like it. I've also played, as I mentioned, I fumbled and mentioned Rocket League earlier. That was a lot of fun, but I don't really have much to say about that, other than that it's really fun, even if I'm not great at it. I also play Minecraft. I tend to play with my brother. We have a creative mode world called Aggro Crag that we haven't played in a while, but we're building a very large city. I'm particularly focused on the old town, trying to make it look very medieval and European. But yeah, so that's a lot of fun. And then we have a survival mode world where we go to get trophies and we beat the Ender Dragon and stuff like that. And that's also, I think, more fun than creative mode, because you can, you know, there's so much satisfaction when you're mining and you come across like a block of emerald, because those only come in blocks of 1, or you come across diamond. It's so, I don't know why, but there's something in my brain that goes off, and it's just so satisfying. So I really, really enjoy Minecraft. I don't play it as much as other people. I'm not going to ever build like some sort of amazing world, but I really enjoy it. And now that I've played it, I understand why. For a long time, I was like, I don't get Minecraft. But once I started playing it, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so now I will talk about the 2 series that I love the most. I'll start with the one I love slightly less. So as I mentioned in the Limbo video, I am a sucker for BioWare games. I adore BioWare. I love how they do the RPG and how your decisions matter, and the characters that they create are often fantastic. So the first series I want to mention is Dragon Age. I played Dragon Age Origins on the Xbox, I think. Or I might have played that on the PS3 if it came out on PS3. But then I also played Origins on my Mac, and I played Dragon Age 2 on my Mac as well, my old computer. And, you know, obviously Dragon Age Origins I like more than Dragon Age 2, but that being said, I played both of them multiple times, and I know Dragon Age 2 gets shit on a lot, and I understand, you know, the world's not as big. It's really just like Kirkwall and different parts of Kirkwall and the Stormy Coast. Is that even what it's called? I think the Stormy Coast is from Inquisition. But maybe it's also called the Stormy Coast. But either way, you know, like the coastline where the Dalish are and where you can go do missions and stuff. But yeah, I understand that it's a smaller map. A lot of the characters aren't as engaging as from the first game or from the third game for that matter. But, you know, the graphics are better. I thought Kirkwall, it's a really cool city, and I love the aesthetic of it, and it has a really interesting history. And, you know, I just wish it were one of like a series of cities that you could have visited. That would have been cool. To visit the other cities in the free marches, I think would have been really awesome. But, you know, I really enjoyed that game. Obviously, romance Fenris in the second game because he's broody and elfy, and also the rest of I feel like the rest of the romance options in that game weren't good. Sebastian, you couldn't really do anything with because he was super religious. Which is all too familiar. And then, you know, who's the other one? Anders was like crazy. So I was not into that. I wasn't feeling that either. And then Varric has a great personality, but he's not romanceable, and he's a dwarf anyway. Not that I have anything against dwarves, but, you know, I never find myself being attracted to them. But yeah, and then obviously the first Dragon Age game was fantastic. I wish it had a speaking protagonist, a protagonist who speaks like Hawke does. I thought that was a great addition in the second game. But I really loved the first game. It was so much fun. You know, the Grey Wardens are so cool, and every time I played it, despite my best efforts to try to romance like Zevran or something, I always romanced Alistair, because he's adorable. Everybody loves Alistair. So yeah, and I loved the characters in that game. I thought I really liked Sten a lot. You know, I really wanted to be his friend, and though I do like what they did with the Qunari in the second and third games, making them look so much different. I thought that was a really great change, because not everything can look particularly human. Not that they're not still humanoids, but at least now they look a lot different than just really big humans. But yeah, I really like Sten, and then obviously Sandal and his dad, you know, with their enchantment. I really, really liked. Oghren was also really cool, and I thought, you know, Zevran, he's a pretty funny guy as well. I never tend to be as into the female characters, so I wasn't, you know, Liliana's alright. She's not my favorite. She's alright. And Morrigan almost in some ways kind of reminds me of Miranda in the Mass Effect series, and how she kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But still, you know, I loved those games, and I thought, especially Dragon Age Origins just had a fantastic story. And then obviously, best for last, Dragon Age Inquisition, the most recent game in the series, is really fantastic. I'm actually replaying it now, not this very moment, but it's my game that I'm currently I'm playing when I'm not playing Limbo or Minecraft. And it was just, I think it really like set a really high bar for what RPGs have to be on these new systems. I thought, you know, the characters were great. I love your companions and your advisors. Obviously Liliana and Morrigan are back, and I still don't love them, but in general, you know, I really like Josephine. Sarah can be annoying, but she's also funny sometimes, so I don't mind her. Actually, okay, so my first playthrough, I romanced Cullen. Again, obvious, because he's one, the most attractive, and two, just really adorable. And he's been in all three games, so it was really cool to have a chance to get to know him properly. And I thought that romance was really cute, and so I really liked it. And then my second playthrough, so my first playthrough, I was an elf rogue. My second playthrough, I was a human mage, and I romanced Blackwall. Not so much, I mean, I thought Blackwall, you know, he does kind of have that whole, like, lumber sexual thing going on, which I'm not necessarily particularly attracted to, and he is a bit older and stuff, but, you know, I was just like, it's something different to do this playthrough, so I did that, and it was fine. But then I watched online the Soulless romance, which I had never had intended to do. Like, I thought for my third playthrough I'd go back to Cullen, but then after watching it, I realized it's maybe the best, and it's sad that it actually probably has the littlest amount of time dedicated to it. But it's a lot more, I think, emotional than the other ones, and it's a lot more complicated than the other ones. And that's what I'm doing on my current playthrough. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. My current playthrough is an elf mage. Obviously, you have to be an elf if you want him to romance you. And I just thought he would like a mage more, so I made myself a mage again. Plus, being a mage is cool. I prefer being a mage or a rogue to being a warrior. Maybe because I myself am small, so I identify with people who sometimes like have to be small and sneaky and stick back, maybe. But yeah, so I think the romances are really great. I think how they introduce characters from the past is really great. And And I just think Dragon Age Inquisition, it's such a large game. I think I heard that the entire map and like area that you can explore is as big as the Skyrim overworld, which anybody who's played Skyrim knows is freaking humongous. So, yeah, I was just so impressed with how beautiful each of the locations were. And it's a really replayable game. I mean, sometimes a lot of the side missions, I'm like, okay, like, I'm somebody who, if I come across a side mission, I have to do it, even if I'm playing the game for like the 5th time. So that can be kind of a bit monotonous at times, because it's like, I don't want to do this, but I want the experience and the power and stuff like that. But in general, it's so fantastic and replayable, and yeah, I love everything about it. I don't really have many complaints. There are characters I don't like, but not because they're bad characters, just because they're good enough characters that they have deep enough personalities that I can come to like not big fans of them. I'm looking at you, Vivian. And yeah, but I loved it, and I'm so excited for the next game and for DLC. That I know there's been DLC so far that's story DLC, but I want DLC that addresses the post-credit scene, which I don't want to spoil, but anybody who's seen it knows that it's crazy, and I would love to see what happens after that and what happens with a particular character. But yeah, so Dragon Age, love it. It's fantastic, and if you ever would want me to do a whole episode of something talking about Dragon Age, I am all about it. You know, I will be there and I will do it, and we can talk about it and gush about it. It's great. So I'm sure, as you can guess, because I kind of mentioned it already, my favorite series of all time, it's quite typical, but is Mass Effect. I know some people shit on the first game, but I think it holds up well. You know, I go back and replay it, and I remember playing it the first time, I was so engrossed in it, and I still am. You know, I love everything about it. And I love everything about all 3 games. I know the ending of the 3rd game a lot of people didn't like, myself included, because, you know, I was somebody who was really deeply, or is really deeply, like, immersed in that series, and so I wanted, like, a really satisfying ending where it felt like all of the things I did up to that point mattered. And, you know, when in the end it's only blue, green, or red, with red being obviously the only real choice, it feels almost like none of my decisions really mattered up to that point. I mean, maybe they did in the sense of what characters are left, like who survived and who died. And, like, I just dropped something. And, like, if the Krogans can reproduce or not. Obviously, like, who doesn't do that, even if it means sacrificing Morden. But, yeah, like, in general, I don't think that ruined the rest of the game. And I think a lot of the DLC, while it didn't come after the ending and it happened before the ending, because it came out after the game did, and I got to play it after experiencing the endings, it made it feel better. I think Citadel, obviously the last DLC, was such a fantastic way to kind of have closure with those characters and feel like they really mattered and your relationships with them really mattered, that, you know, I have almost no complaints about the Mass Effect series. And I'm so excited for Andromeda. I know they just keep showing teasers, which is annoying, and I'm so excited to see, like, the first like real proper trailer for it. But yeah, I adore it. And I'm really interested to see how humanity managed to get to the freaking Andromeda galaxy. Like, intergalactic travel is already crazy, but I mean, not intergalactic, like intragalactic, I guess, travel is, like, crazy. So intergalactic travel I'm really bad with prefixes. So anyway, travel within the galaxy is already crazy enough to think about, but then, like, thinking about going between galaxies, like, how can you possibly manage that, especially now that all of the Mass Effect fields are gone? And I know it's, like, way in the future that it's going to happen, but still, I'm really excited for it, though. The only thing that makes me sad is that, you know, Garrus and Liara and all of my favorite characters aren't going to be there. Because obviously, you know, Garrobear's the best. I actually never romanced him, just because I thought human-Turian relations would not be particularly comfortable, and I couldn't see myself romancing that, but he was always, like, my best friend. like, obviously. And him and Tali end up together if you don't romance him, so obviously it's a good thing to do, to not romance him. But in the first game, I romanced Caden every single time I played it, because I feel like the female characters didn't have a lot of options in the first game. I can't even think of who the other options are other than Liara. Yeah, though I think when I did a male playthrough, I romanced Liara. But most of my playthroughs have been female. I've done at least one male playthrough of all the games, but I usually, when I go back and play, will choose female. Then in the second game, I most times romance Thane, because I know you're like, Holland, if this wasn't comfortable, how would that be comfortable? I don't know. He's more humanoid than Turians. You know, Drow are more humanoids than Turian looking, at least how they look, so I think maybe that's how I justify it. And, but yeah, and he also has a cool personality. He's an assassin, but like a regretful assassin who's really thoughtful and soulful and stuff, so that's really cool. Though I did romance Jacob once, despite knowing how things end up in Mass Effect 3. I just wanted to do something different. Even though I hate that line when he's like, but the prize. I don't know, I don't like that line, but, yeah, in general, that's who I romanced. And then in the third game, I went back to Caden. Because I think a lot of people think he's boring, but I think as the games go on, he develops really nicely. And that message he sends Femshep after meeting on Horizon in the second game is so sad, especially when you hear Raphael Sbarge, or however you pronounce the voice actor's name, read it as he did. Like, you can find that online, I think, on YouTube. It's so sad. And it's fantastic. But the Mass Effect games, I usually played as a Vanguard, or a soldier, though sometimes, I think my most recent playthrough, I played as an Adept, just to mix it up a little bit and have to focus more on technology. But yeah, I have almost zero complaints. Again, there are characters I didn't, sorry, I just hit Garrus on my desk. There are characters I didn't like, usually because they were well written, but they just had shitty personalities. Though I would say the only character that I didn't like, just because I wish she hadn't been in the game, was Diana Allers, the journalist lady who's in the third game, who's supposed to be like Jessica Chobot or something, or who, like, that's her voice actor and who she looks like. I didn't really like her character, didn't think she really added much to the game, but otherwise I almost have no complaints about anything in those games. Everything is fantastic, and I so love that story and the universe it created, that I don't care how ridiculous it got or anything like that. Yeah, I could talk about Mass Effect for a long time, and so again, sort of like Dragon Age, if you ever want me to do like a Mass Effect themed like talk or whatever, that's totally cool, especially maybe as more Mass Effect Andromeda stuff comes out. That'll be something I'll focus on, because I am all about that shit. Yeah, so I guess now all I have left is to talk about the future and what I look forward to. I look forward to the new Halo, but the game I'm most looking forward to is Star Wars Battlefront. I've never played a Star Wars video game before, and I actually never have been all that into the Star Wars series, which should be surprising considering how much I love like sci-fi and space sci-fi, as is obvious by Mass Effect. But I really think the new Battlefront game just looks so fantastic, and it looks right up my alley, and I'm so excited to play it, and then to play online and all of that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Fallout 4, as I mentioned. So hopefully I'll get that and play it in time. And I'm also thinking I would just love a game that has great longevity, that I can play online with people, people who hopefully would be patient with my lack of proficiency. I had thought about Destiny, but I haven't played Destiny since the alpha and the beta on the PS4. And I really, really liked the alpha and the beta, and I got actually pretty good at it. But I haven't played since then, just because I was away for a long time, and for so many months I had no video games, because I was moving around, and then for a while I was waffling whether or not I really wanted to buy a system, though I'm so glad I did. But yeah, so I don't know, is it too late to join the whole Destiny thing now? I don't know. I guess you could let me know, because I know the game's not that great. and that sucks because the story's not that great. The game itself, I've heard like the gameplay is fantastic and stuff. But the story itself, I heard, is not that great. And as somebody who likes story, it's a bit sad. But also, like, if the gameplay is really great and if the online play is really great, then I think I would also have fun doing that. And if people want to play with me, that's even more fantastic. And I guess one final game that I'm looking forward to is, it's almost very Destiny-like, The Division. It seems like Destiny, but just focused on, I guess, like New York in the future. And I guess... I don't know. It looks really, really cool and like a lot of fun, and I think I would love to play that with people and to talk and to strategize and do all of that stuff. So yeah, we'll see. I'm really looking forward to new games. I would love gaming suggestions. If you think there are games that I would really like that I didn't mention, that would be fantastic. And also, you know, games that are coming out. Or like if you want to play with me and stuff, that would be great. I'm looking for horror game suggestions because I think I want to do a weekly video where I play a horror game because I hate horror games. I live by myself and I would be playing at night because it's when I have the most time to play video games. So it will probably not be great for my mental health, but I think it could be good as something to watch. So, yeah. I would love some great suggestions. Sadly, you can't download PT anymore, and I didn't download it before it was taken off the PSN. But yeah, I would love some good horror game suggestions. But other than that, I guess that's it. We've hit an hour. And kudos to you if you made it all the way through this video. You are stronger than most. And I'm really grateful that you did that. And if you like or subscribe, that would be really fantastic. You know, I'm new to YouTube, to uploading on YouTube. I watch it profusely. I watch it too much probably. And, you know, I don't expect myself to ever be popular or something like that on YouTube. But even if I could just get like a small group of people who like to watch what I do, that'd be great. You know, it's a lot of fun for me to talk and play video games. And yeah, I look forward to doing it more in the future and maybe even streaming one day. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video and hopefully I will see you soon. Bye!